This is a beautiful piece. It's short, but it has a lot of topics that we've already been looking at. It's a great practice piece for you, and I want to show it to you today. This is called a hymn. It's by Ludwig Schytte. He's a German composer from the 1800s. And remember, around that time, we're seeing a lot of piano students, piano teachers, pianos in homes, and you might run into these smaller pieces that are meant for teaching or sitting down and playing at home. And I think this fits into that category. We're in the key of E minor, and it's called a hymn, like I said, like a church hymn. It's not truly a church hymn, but it's written in that way. We have 4-part writing. You could think of this as bass, tenor, alto, and soprano. If you're familiar with choir writing, that's exactly what would happen. If you were singing this in a choir, you'd have the 4 parts with each voice part following. So think about it that way. Along the same lines, I would think about it in a singing way with words. I've been a church musician for years, and hymns are about words. And it's funny to me to have a hymn with no words, because that's the whole point. The shape of the phrase and the tempo, a lot of that comes from the text. So with a piece like this, you need to use a little imagination, or if you're feeling creative, make up your own words. That could happen too. Let's build these chords at the beginning. We have E minor, root of the chord here in the left hand, the 3rd of the chord, the 5th of the chord, and a 2nd root at the top. So really traditional chord shape, broken up 2 notes in the left, 2 notes in the right. That's how we begin. And I'm scanning across the first line, the first 4 measures, and I'm kind of looking for common tones from chord to chord. And I can see that the bass note stays on E all the way across. That's the first line for the bass, my lowest note in the left hand. We might call that a pedal point. If you hear that term, it's a bass note that stays consistent through all of those other chord changes. And typically, it'll be a tonic pedal point, in this case E, or it might be a dominant pedal point, which would be a B. I'm going to point that out in a minute, actually. So first line of music, same chord. Here's the chord change. Now take a look. My top note and bottom note stayed on E, so I kind of keep that in place as an anchor, for my hand position. The middle 2 notes, they move, and that creates the new harmony. Only 1 note changes from beat 3 to 4. So I'm in measure 2 from this chord to F sharp. Make sure you've got that F sharp. And then E minor chord, end of the phrase there. So take a moment and find the notes, but then there's so much more we can do with it. I think the next thing you need to think about is your foot, pedaling. This should have pedal all the way through, just like any hymn that you play. Pedal from chord to chord, and when the chord changes, that's a pedal change. I worked on this just yesterday with a student. When you change the pedal with a chord like that, be careful that you're not lifting your foot too early. That's what always happens, and it's a mistake that you can fix. Here's what people do wrong. Did you hear it? So you're picking up your foot really at the same time as your hands, which is wrong. If that happens, there's going to be a gap in the sound, and we don't want that. Here's the wrong thing one more time. So I'm picking up, and there's a hole in the sound, which I don't want. Let's fix it. I'm going to keep my foot on the pedal. Okay, my hands are up, my foot is down. That's when I lift it. Okay? It seems backwards to a lot of beginners, but that's the way we do it. One more time. Wait until you play the next chord. That's the pedal change. Change, change, change. The goal is that there are no gaps in the sound. Totally smooth sound. because of how you're doing the pedal changes, the timing of that. It matters so much. And I've heard somewhere through the years, good pedaling is not noticeable. We should never really pay attention. As a listener, if you start to notice someone's pedaling, they're probably not doing a good job, either too much or not enough. If you're doing it just right, we shouldn't even notice it. So maybe that's a good thing to keep in mind. Here's the first line with good pedal changes. Listen. That might take some practice, but that's what we need. I should add, I'm also playing as smoothly as I can with my fingers. And I've seen people go wrong with this also. They think as soon as I'm using the pedal, I don't have to work hard here. And that's not true. You know, here's what happens. If I'm playing these in a choppy way, it's just not right. You know, I can't really shape or express what I want to. The tone is not as full and rich. So we still want all of that connection in the fingers, very legato. We're going to think about the phrase in just a second and the dynamics. The pedal is always additional to that. You know, we could survive without it if we had to. So let's move on from there. Two topics that are sort of related. One is bringing out the melody over everything else. And I know you've heard this from me before, but this is a great example. The top note, or the soprano note, if you want to think of it that way, that's the melody. Getting louder, getting softer to here. So I need to feel those notes coming out stronger than the rest of the chord. And I said there are two things related. The other thing is phrasing, shaping the dynamics so that I'm not playing flat everything the same volume. So those both have to do with dynamics. Let's try it. Bringing out the top note, start by finding that. I'm feeling a heavier, stronger tone right there, and the rest of the chord not as much. Okay? I have heard the melody should come out 3 times as loud as everything else. So think about how that feels. Getting louder, shape the phrase to the highest point, and then back down. Now those topics carry us through the rest of the piece. Pedaling, bringing out the melody, shaping the phrase. That's how you find the beauty in this hymn. The second phrase, like I said, same things apply, but we're looking at some different chords. We have that dominant pedal point. The low note B stays all the way through the second phrase. Here are the chords. B major, so look for D sharp there. That's an added accidental. Do you know that when you have an accidental written in, it stays true for the whole measure? So in this case, I'm playing D sharp, and there's another D sharp and another. Since we're in the same measure, next measure, that would be canceled out. But I have E minor, B7, there's D sharp again, crescendoing to the last note. Remember how we looked for common tones, things that kind of anchor our hands, and then the moving notes work around that. This line is exactly the same. So we have consistent B, 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 B in the alto and the bass, and the other notes move. Third phrase, I'll just play through it. It matches the first phrase. The only difference is that it's marked quieter than the first presentation. So I'm in the third phrase, kind of softer sound, maybe a little more thoughtful the second time around. Okay, fourth phrase, which is the last one, is marked sotto voce, which means undervoiced or whispered or distant. It's less loud. So in that case, I might use the soft pedal. It might depend on which instrument I'm playing, but let's try that. That's the left foot pressing down the soft pedal to get this hushed sound that we want. take time at the end, play right to the bottom of the key. Do you know that when you use the soft pedal, you do everything else as you normally would? You still bring out the melody, you still shape the phrase, you still use the damper pedal. So that's a question that I've gotten a lot. When I press that left pedal, how does it affect everything? It doesn't. It just cuts the sound, down a little bit. So you can still play it in a really beautiful way using all of those techniques. It's just got a quieter volume. So this piece walks you through in a one-page kind of short example, several of these piano techniques that we've been working on. And it gets you into this key of E minor, which we haven't seen very much, but it's a beautiful key. You could take this idea and come up with your own song. This is using traditional kind of church hymn writing, but it lends itself to poetry and phrasing, and I think you'll have fun with that. Enjoy.